In being invisible, we're becoming irrelevant. What do I mean by that? Barna says, the influence of Christianity on culture and individual lives is largely invisible. And I start this one with an analogy. If you think about American independence, you think about our country and the founding of our nation. One of the towering figures at the beginning of our nation's founding is Thomas Jefferson. He authored the Declaration of Independence. I mean, he went out for one or two nights and wrote that document, which is a masterpiece in itself. Went through a couple of revisions, but it's phenomenal. As the founding father and the author of the Declaration of Independence, his ideas are still quoted today as bedrock principles, right? We all hear people quote Jefferson and how his ideas are the foundations of what our nation's built. He was our nation's third president. He bought the Louisiana Territory, which expanded us basically from sea to sea. And his impact is just huge. Now, imagine if Thomas Jefferson said, well, I'm for the revolution, and I'll do some writing, but I'm really not going to stick my neck out that far and sign my name to anything. I'll just kind of be anonymous, and if you guys want some help, maybe, I'm a Virginia farm owner, I can throw some money at it, but I really kind of want to stay incognito because big landowners, that's who the king is going to gun for. If Jefferson recoiled from his actions and didn't want anyone to know where he stood, do you think the values that he espoused in the Declaration would be as regarded today as they are? Do you think the U.S. would look completely different than it does? Absolutely. Barna writes on this topic, Christianity has arguably added more value to American culture than any other religion, philosophy, ideology, or community. Yet contemporary Americans are hard-pressed to identify any specific value added. You guys think you can identify some of the values that Christianity has inflicted on our country? What's a Christian, uniquely Christian value? That wouldn't have existed if Christianity wouldn't exist. Tough, huh? Why is that? Partly due to the nature of today's media, they have no problem in identifying the faults of the churches and the Christian people. Those are easy. We get lists printed for us on a regular basis. The primary obstacle is not the substance of the principles on which Christianity is based, and therefore the solution is not solely providing an increase in preaching or public relations. The most influential aspect of Christianity in America is how believers do or do not practice their faith in public and in private. Are we living what we say we live? See, today perception is everything, right? The makeup man is more important than the speechwriter. And I point to the Nixon-Kennedy debates for that. Anyone who heard the Kennedy-Nixon debates on the radio in 1960 said Nixon won hands down. Anybody who watched it said Kennedy won. Why? Because it was the first televised debate and Nixon didn't want to wear any makeup. Kennedy did. Nixon was sweating on TV under the hot lights. People took that as being nervous. Kennedy, in his makeup and his pancake, his sweat didn't show. See, the makeup man became more important than the speechwriter. Now, we forget in our media-obsessed culture that if people don't see a visible effect, they tend to dismiss the movement as irrelevant. And that's, I think, what's going on. They don't see Christianity as making any great impact. There are great men who stood on Christian principles. William Wilberforce for 20 years. And if you haven't seen the movie Amazing Grace, go rent it, because it's mostly about Wilberforce's efforts in the British Parliament to ban the slave trade. Phenomenal movie. Don't have to go that far, though. How about Martin Luther King? Just read his letter from the Birmingham jail. Phenomenal work. I mean, Christians should be revived. Martin Luther King was motivated not because he was black. He was motivated because he was a reverend and black. It was the Christian worldview of equality of all people, regardless of the color of their skin, that motivated him. I point you to that letter. See, Christians don't know their own history. We can talk about Thomas Jefferson, and we know the contributions he made. We forget about the Wilberforces of the world. No one's read Augustine. No one knows about Aquinas. No one realizes how huge these people were in world society. So much so that you cannot take a philosophy course in the most secular university in the nation or in the world without having to deal with the toughest issues of Christianity. Because Augustine, Aquinas, Anselm, Blaise Pascal, all these guys were giants in the faith, and Christianity proved relevant.